Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Care2Grow Show podcast. Super excited to share today's guest with you, Dr. Shannon Connor. Welcome, Dr. Connor.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Dr. Connor is a dear friend of mine and an incredible doctor of chiropractic. She practices in Orange County, California. And we had first met many years ago. I don't even know if you remember it. It was actually at a NUCA seminar, National Upper Cervical Chiropractic Association. And through the years, we kept running into each other at different upper cervical conferences, and we practice the same upper cervical technique now, quantum spinal mechanics 3. And she has become a leader in our chiropractic technique. And then, as her practice has evolved, she started working with some of the newest technologies in regenerative healthcare, including soft wave therapy. And now she's working with lasers and working on hearing restoration, which I'm really excited to hear more about. But what really intrigues me about you as a provider is the way that you care for people. And I saw it for the first time, firsthand, 4 years ago when you came out to our practice to train my entire team on how to use the soft wave, the shockwave device. And I watched you treat about 20, 25 patients back to back to back to back to back. And I was just in awe of watching your method of caring, your method of communication, your certainty, your confidence. You had never met any of these patients before, and they instantly felt comfortable in your hands. And like I wasn't surprised, but I was like, because we knew each other at conferences and conversations, and we've become friends through the years. But I never watched you work until that
Mm.
moment, and it was actually the only time I've ever watched you work. And it's actually left an imprint on me, and I think about that often as I care for patients. So when I decided to do the podcast, the Care to Grow Show podcast, you were at the tippy tip top of the list, and I'm so glad that we're finally getting to have this conversation. So welcome.
Well, thank you. That's so kind.
That's how I
Appreciate
feel
that.
about you. So, talk to us, the people, the community, about your origin story, because naturally becoming a chiropractor is the path least traveled. How did you
Yeah.
end up here?
Well, it's evolved obviously over the years. I started out pre-med, and I couldn't imagine going to school with people that were so competitive and kind of cutthroat. I'm from Canada, and it's very competitive up there to get into medicine. And it just kind of didn't make sense to me. I didn't really taking medication. I was never raised that way. And then being in a hospital just freaked me out, the idea of spending a bunch of time there. And so I started looking at other modalities. And I had read a book about chiropractic, and it made a lot of sense to me. The nervous system, the brain, and the spinal cord control every other system of the body. And so if you free that up, every other system can work better. And that really resonated with me. So then I am I'm a researcher. I really like I'm analytical. So I started visiting chiropractors and talking to them. And this is in the late 80s. And everybody was so kind and welcoming.
Mm,
And it was kind of like and I was, oh, okay, this seems like something I could do. And then there was two, only at the time, I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, and there were only two female chiropractors in the city. And I went and visited one of them, and she offered me, I asked if I could volunteer in her clinic, and she offered me a job. So
mm,
that was it for me. I got to see the changes that people would go through, and just the magic that chiropractic
mm.
really had, the joys of people's lives changing, and I got to see that every day. So as I was going through university, I worked for her, and then her husband had graduated, so the two of them. So that really set me on a path, and it was kind of like once I made that decision, it just everything started to fall into line. And I will say this, but a lot of times I don't listen to myself. But if there's a lot of resistance, it's probably not the right path. I've learned
Mm,
that. So we're told a lot of, we're given a lot of information. And if it's not pulling me, then it's probably not the right direction for me. So that for me, the decision for chiropractic was that was it. I needed to move in that path. And then when I was in chiropractic college, I was actually injured. I had a small stroke
mm,
and I couldn't lift my arms and I couldn't feel my face from an injury to my neck.
mm,
And the Nuka work saved my life. And within 3 weeks, I couldn't, I was having a hard time and someone took me to someone that Dr. Bob Brooks, who you know, who's a mentor
mhm,
to all of us, and he turned the lights on for me for the first time and things that I didn't even understand, even though I saw things at the office I worked at. Like I was constipated my whole life,
mm,
and I had had a head trauma when I was little. I fell down a window well and hit the back of my head, and I had a concussion.
mm,
And Dr. Brooks adjusted me, and it was a 5 to 7 minute drive from where I got adjusted to my home, and I had to stop at a gas station
mm.
because my constipation. I had
Was
to go to the
cured.
bathroom so bad, I couldn't wait to get home. And that was amazing. And I fell asleep and I woke up and I could see lights. Everything was brighter in my world. The lights
Mm,
literally turned on in my body, probably for the first time since I was 2 years old. And so
wow.
then that was it. That was my path and it's been my passion ever since. And then what's happened through the years is that as I've needed things for myself and my healing, I go down that road and I learn, and then I've brought it into my own clinic and implemented that. And so I feel like I have a unique skill set in that I'm able to offer people things and see things. Like I'm really into looking at patterns and learning from patterns and I've, I mean, I really enjoy difficult cases because I've been one of those cases. And
Mm,
so a lot of people, over people, I think a lot of times get dismissed when they're difficult, or it gets
mhm.
lumped into fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue or things like that. And I really enjoy the figuring the pieces of the puzzle out and being a partner with people in that journey.
Wow. Wow. For most chiropractors, they had some sort of life-changing experience that
Mm.
put them on that path. And I actually never heard you tell that story. So
Mm.
that's incredible. And your practice has been around for how long? How long have you been practicing for now?
That's 32 years.
That's incredible. And
It's
you built
crazy.
a super, super successful practice by lots of standards, patient care and business growth. And you practice solo with a support team, which is
Hmm.
amazing.
Hmm.
And your practice started out as an upper cervical practice, and then you start adding layers or
Hmm.
services on that came about from your own research to try to help yourself heal through the years. This is what I hear.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yeah.
And so we talk in care culture about this concept of compassion and empathy. And empathy is like the feeling like, oh, the patient lost their dog and I feel really bad for them, and I could feel what they're feeling. But compassion is, I'm going to actually do something about that. I'm going
Hmm.
to go with you to pick out a new dog, or I'm going to get you flowers, or I'm going to call you when I'm hungry and tired. So it's really what I think one of the things that makes your practice really unique is your ability to empathize and provide compassionate care because of your own personal experiences and healing journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, from your perspective, what would you say are the unique ways that your team and you provide compassionate care for your patients?
That's a great question.
And I know there's
Well,
many.
yeah. I I think, and I had a coach say this to me a long time ago. He asked me, if you don't tell them the truth, what
Mm,
happens to that patient?
mm,
And I really see every case as life and death because
mm,
if we don't help them, then they may end up down the road of surgery. They may end up down the road of drugs or addicted. And I don't think that's acceptable for anybody. There's a time and a place for medication, there's a time and a place for surgery. But if there's anything that can be done prior to that, then I go into every single case that way. And
mm.
and I also we're there to provide hope. And a lot of times hope's been taken away from people. And I feel like people need to be listened to, acknowledged, and also be told the truth. Because if
Mm.
you don't tell them, no one will, you know? And
Yeah,
so
sorry, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
yeah, so eh, I lead with that with our team that when they walk in the door, they need to feel like family. My office has been set up not to be clinical, although it is, but to feel more homey and inviting, so that they are not afraid. I
Mm,
don't wear a white coat. I never
mm,
have. I feel like how we carry ourselves communicates to the patient. And a lot of people, when you check their blood pressure, they have the white coat syndrome,
right,
and one of the things I assure everybody, because everything we do in our office does not hurt, that
right.
we're here to help. And one of the things I do communicate at the beginning with every visit, the North American way is bigger, better, more. And that's not the way
Right.
the body works. Your
Mm.
system is overwhelmed and your system needs to be calmed down. So if you know, have been hit over the head with a bat, you don't need me coming in on the other side. We're
Mm.
here to take the overwhelm off. We're here to help your body heal and assist that in a very gentle way. And so that will put people at ease. So I think, and also making communication open to that patient. They're never
Mm.
wrong in the office. They can tell us anything. And I feel it's an honor that they are willing to open up and tell us and communicate because they need to, because it's not just a physical problem for most people. There is emotional component to everything. So if they're not looking at all of it and feel safe to open up and communicate, they're never going to fully get well.
You're so intentional. And I don't think patients realize like how much is going on behind the scenes in your psychology and from your experience to create a condition in which they can heal. Like
Yeah.
the environment, the way
Hmm.
that you're protecting their emotions, you're aware of their psychology. The masters are aware that that plays a role in a person's ability to get well, and you're intentional. And the first thing you said was just tell them the truth.
Hmm.
And there are so many doctors that either sugarcoat or they don't want to offend somebody or they mince words. And I know you really well, you never do that. And that's part of authenticity.
Hmm.
So, I mean, just the way you showed up and told that really personal story a moment ago, that's who you are. So, how important do you feel authenticity and vulnerability for the practitioner is in the person's experience, in the patient's experience?
100%. It's everything. I really think that. And I think that's the thing is that I make people feel at ease because nothing is embarrassing. You can say anything to me. I'm never going to, make you wrong or shame you or anything. My job is to be your doctor. And in order to do that, I need to tell you the truth. And so
Hmm.
I do tend to teach through stories. Uh, and put it on, I will put it on myself because it's easier to hear somebody else's story and maybe relate it to yourself, and then there's times where I do need to flip it on the patient. I try to come in on the level they can hear me at. So it really just depends on where the patient is and what we have to communicate. Someone who's very sensitive, we have to, baby steps.
Hmm.
Some people need to be hit over the head with a bat, not
Hmm.
literally.
Right, 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 right.
Sometimes
They
it's
need
just
direct
be
talk.
really blunt and
Yeah.
let's talk about this because I care about you and I don't want this to continue to happen. So here's what we need to figure out, you know? And so it's really matching the patient and understanding where that patient is at and what they need. Um, so everybody's different. So it's really being able to read people, I think.
So was there an evolution or was there a moment that you realized that I need to show up this way? Or is there a specific patient or experience that comes to mind? Maybe one that got away or one that was like a super success story. I know you're such a master at what you do, and I want to find out like how did you get to this point? Were there forks in the road or was it an evolution over time?
Well, it's obviously an evolution, and when I first started practice, because I had been ill and I started needing to cleanse and detox. And then, the next thing I know, I need to do that for everybody. Because if you had these results, then you would do this too. And again, not many people are willing to do pretty extreme things unless they're very, very ill.
Hmm.
And so it was, at first you try to fix everybody. And now it's like, okay, what does this person need and want? And not everybody's going to do like I try to meet people where they're at.
Hmm.
So if you want your spine handled, which is the primary thing in my office always, we'll do that. If you feel like when I bring up, hey, your colon looks toxic,
Hmm.
let's talk about cleaning that thing out, or let's talk about a detox program. If they're not interested, that's fine.
Right.
So it's really where they're at and the level that they want is where we'll meet them. Because I do have a lot of skill sets in detoxification and nutrition. We have decompression and we have soft wave. But what I have found is less is more
Mm.
always. And
Hmm.
so we have three main modalities.
Hmm.
And sometimes people who are really bad need all three.
Hmm.
Sometimes people just need chiropractic.
Hmm.
Sometimes most people actually need decompression, I
Hmm.
think, just because we're our forward head posture, always on the
Sure.
phone and everything. So I will make recommendations, based on what everything looks like. But again, it's not my job to be your friend. It's my job to tell you what's best for you. And I think I've learned over the years, when I back maybe like they don't want to do everything and they're like, well, and I'm like, this is going to get worse. This is getting worse. And now because I practiced for so long, I'm seeing the people that maybe didn't listen and then they come
Mm.
back and they're like,
Hmm.
you were right. And
Mm.
now, it takes longer, costs more.
Right.
Let's just do this right at the beginning. Do it once and
Right.
do it right. And not that chiropractic is once, because to me
Right.
it's a lifestyle, it's a way of being, and you have to maintain your body. People will spend $100,000 on a car and do the oil
Hmm.
changes and the maintenance, but they won't put that kind of money into their body, and we're not nearly as expensive as any of that.
Right.
And your body is your vehicle for life. And I
Sure.
remind them of that. They, how are you servicing your vehicle? It's your temple. You'll take better care of your Mercedes than you will this, but this is the thing
Right.
that you need to be comfortable in and happy in.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it does take a practitioner that's willing to have that direct talk. And sometimes we do have to let them fail and then be
Hmm.
there for them. So sometimes love shows up as support, and sometimes it's challenge. And knowing when
Right.
someone needs which is important. So you have a reputation for taking care of difficult cases, people that have been everywhere and tried everything. And sometimes they land in your office as a last resort. What is what is your perspective? What are you hearing from patients about the current state of the healthcare system? Are they showing up where they feel like they're being served well? Are they being underserved? Are they not getting the right answers? What are you hearing?
Well, I think our healthcare systems are failing systems, and
Mm,
as far as medicine, the doctors are overworked, they're underpaid, the insurance doesn't pay and cover the paperwork. It's turned into servicing the insurance companies as opposed to servicing the patients. They have to,
mm,
so many people. And so then what happens, I think, is things get misdiagnosed or lost or they're just a number, and they have to get through. And then the doctors are overworked and frustrated. And so I have never been a part of that system. I years and years when I was in chiropractic college, there was a doctor who was talking about. I went up to him and I basically said, Dr. Reekman, how do I force my father to do what I want him to do?
mm.
Because
How well
he
does
needs
that work?
chiropractic care.
Yeah,
And he said to me, You don't. You don't, Shannon. You cry about it and you move on and you go help the people that want your help.
sure.
And then I said, and I don't want to do insurance. And this was back in the early 90s when everybody was accepting insurance and chiropractors were, you know, doing like part just billing, billing, billing. And he said, Shannon, it's going to be a slower build for you, but you're going to be much happier because if you're constantly serving the insurance company, you can't properly be serving your patient.
Mm,
And I never forgot that. And I've never been unhappy in care. I
mm,
love going in, I love seeing the patients, and a lot of patients are frustrated. They haven't been heard, they haven't been acknowledged, they have lost hope. And at the beginning, I will always say to the patient when I have a consult with them, I'm sorry you've gone through this. And I really mean it. I mean, it's horrible, the stories we hear.
mm,
And there's always hope. Your
mm,
body's always self-healing and self-correcting till the day you die. So
mm,
I am sorry if anyone's taken that away from you, but we will do our best to help you. We're partners here, and I like to give the patients their power back because a lot
mm,
of people give their power away to the white coat. You know more than the doctor. You know what's going on with you. And when people actually take their power back, that's when they can actually heal. When they feel like there is hope, and it's an emotional thing. Every I believe unless there's a physical trauma, every chronic illness will usually start with a thought process. So when they start to put that chink in the armor there, that's when their real healing begins because it's on a
mm.
deeper level for them. Like, who's the pain in your butt? And they'll just spit somebody out. Who's the pain in your neck? Okay, well, I can't help you with that per se,
Right.
but you need to talk to somebody about that or putting the dots together for them. I think I'm pretty good at that because once you start hearing people enough, you start seeing the patterns and then you can help them see their own patterns because we can't see what we can't see, you
Sure.
know.
You're just shining a light and raising their awareness about an underlying cause that may not even be on their radar because you have a vantage point of having seen thousands of people before them.
Right.
Um, so this is really interesting because if we go back to your example of your consultation where you said, I'm really sorry that you went through this, but there's always hope and we're going to partner together. That just rolled off your tongue
Hmm.
and naturally. And it's interesting because there was a study done in oncology where oncologists were, it was a double blind randomized control trial and they gave oncologists this statement to read. And it sounded very similar to what you just said, and it actually affected cancer patient outcome.
Oh, I'm
So like
sure.
So like you don't need the study to know this, but you're doing this naturally in your practice. And how much more time does it actually take to let the patient know, I hear you. I'm sorry that you are where you are. I want you to know that we're in this together and that we're going to do everything we can to support you. It, 10 seconds?
Nothing. Exactly.
Nothing. And you said, and I really mean it. And in my mind, because I didn't want to interrupt you, I said to myself, of course she does. So it's so intentional, but at the same time, it's subconscious for you. And this is the message that we're trying to get out with this podcast is that we can do this again as professionals taking care of people. And there are distractions and there are real world situations, but it's kind of like shining the light on the patient who needs to think about that bad relationship that may be causing their sciatica. If we just start having this conversation about being intentional with the way that we communicate about to the person in front of us, it can actually affect the way that they heal. So
Right.
my next question to you, since you are so intentional about all of this, is what about your team? So you hire somebody new, or you have paraprofessionals. How are you instilling your 30 years of experience into your paraprofessionals so that they can step forward towards the patient with this same psychology?
Well, I think it's how you show up with people, and how it's just like with kids, right? They do what they see, unconsciously. And so it's really, how are we communicating to the patients? How are we communicating to the staff? And
Mm,
I put the staff before the patients.
mm,
I will have the staff's back because I know my team and we all are cohesive. We say the same things the same way. So I know I can have their back because they've been trained well and they all know what to say, what not to say. I had a situation, she was amazing. We had the front desk CA and she was incredible, and a patient was awful to her,
mm,
and I got and rude, and I heard the whole thing, and I got her out of the x-ray chair. I put her in my room. I wrote her a check for her full amount of care. I gave it to her and I asked her nicely to leave
mm,
because that is not okay to me. And
mm,
the staff member was really making an effort. She had done so many different things to help her regarding her insurance and calling and finding things out for her and getting her super bills and everything. And the lady was belligerent. And I was like,
mm,
mm-mm. So they know I have their back, and I will always have their back. And because they're a pivotal part of the whole backbone of the practice. And so, collectively we can do so much more than just one person. And so they know that. And then we do team building things, and we have meetings every week and we
mm,
discuss things, and I don't hide anything from them. It's
mm,
very transparent. Everybody knows everything.
mm,
I'm not like, oh, everything's good and nice. Like if we need to step up, we step up. If
mm,
we need to do whatever we need to do. But
mm,
and I don't see myself as any, like I'm the doctor and you're the staff. That's
mm,
we're all a pivotal part of the wheel. And so
mm,
without one part, we can't function. So we all need to function together. And I have a team, I'm so grateful, that doesn't require a lot of direction because everybody understands their part and we all work harmoniously together. So, for me, knowing I have good staff, half the time I don't talk to them until lunch or the end of the day. Most of the time, actually, because I have complete confidence that they're handling everything like they're supposed to. And the only time I would get interrupted is there's some kind of an emergency and I need to, we get a call from a patient, something has happened, whatever it might be. But otherwise, at the end of the day, I'll be like, hey, how was your day?
Those are the best days, right?
Yeah.
When we don't have, when we none of us are talking to each other, but we're
Yeah.
all working
Working.
together, moving things forward.
Yeah.
That's when you know everything is dialed in.
Yeah.
And what an amazing example, the story with writing the check of care first leadership. I mean, well, it just like highlights what an incredible leader you are. And so if a doctor is listening to this right now, my question would be, would you be willing to write a three, four, five, six, $7,000 check back to a patient because of the way they're treating one of your team members? And the answer should be absolutely, for sure. Because what does that do to the relationship between you and that staff person now? It's galvanized. I mean, they see that you're willing to do that for them to protect their emotional health and well-being. Like they will go way beyond to return that for you and your organization. So amazing example of leadership. And the other thing about your leadership is you train, but then you let them then you trust them to do their work. You say, I'm not looking over them. I don't have to check in with them. Like I'll just see them at the end of the day and greet them with that smile. So that's amazing leadership too, because sometimes some leaders try to grip and hold on too tight.
Right.
So, go ahead. Did you want to speak to that?
Well, I think people need to be allowed to be who they are.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yeah, I do. I really believe that they need that freedom. And then that trust gets built because they're acknowledged and they get to be themselves, and accepted as they are instead of trying to. Now, I understand there's like, there's the rules in the game and everything, but at the same time, when everybody understands the rules, they get to still express themselves and they get to be themselves. And so that doesn't it doesn't, I never feel like I'm going into work. I never have felt like that. It's always a joy to go into work and be with the people. Like one of our team members is going because she's going on maternity leave. And I was just saying to somebody, I said, it's going to be weird because I've spent more time with her in the last 3.5 years than I have with anybody else, and I'm really going to miss her.
Oh,
We're going to
yeah.
miss her presence because she's been such an asset to us, and she's a wonderful person, and I don't want to lose her. And hopefully she does come back after her maternity leave, that she wants to be there. So yeah, I mean, yeah.
So, looking forward,
Mhm.
you're doing really neat and interesting work, and I want to highlight some of that. Talk to me about what you're currently working on, what you're excited about. Some of it's really new, like really, really new to the US market. And yeah, I want to, not to make a bad joke, I want to hear more about it.
Yes, so we opened a second suite in the building I'm in. So I'm on the fifth floor, and then we opened up it's a hearing restoration.
Hmm.
Hearing restoration, vertigo, and tinnitus, which in the US, there's been no solutions for that. I mean, there's upper cervical for vertigo, and sometimes that helps and sometimes it doesn't. And
Right.
so uh, I was given the opportunity to bring these lasers. Dr. Amon Kaiser from Germany, people fly from all over the world to see him, and like a lot of musicians. And
Hmm.
so a lot of Hollywood people. And what happened in COVID was everything got shut down. So people would go there for a month or 2 months to get treatment because it really does help them. And obviously, if you're a professional musician or, well, anybody with hearing loss, it really makes a big difference. And so he wanted to open a clinic in the US. And so we're the LA clinic, but we're in Costa Mesa, so we're 45 miles from LA,
It's
but
close enough.
close
Yeah.
enough. But sometimes with traffic, it's easier to fly to Baden-Baden than it is to
Right,
even
right.
come down here. But anyway, so yeah, so we've opened that. And I didn't, as a chiropractor, you understand the spine and the brain to some degree as the nervous system. But the hearing apparatus, I mean, we feel through our hearing. So if
Hmm.
you watch a movie and you turn down the volume, it doesn't really have an effect on you. It doesn't
Wow.
have, you can watch it and emotionally you're fine. But turn
Hmm.
on the volume and have the music and the noise and everything. So 1 in 5 people have hearing loss.
Hmm.
And 50% of the people with dementia have hearing loss.
Mm.
And so I just feel so grateful that I get to bring this to the US. And really, we've really spent a lot of time building this office, and it's really beautiful. And again, it's a homey environment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been fascinating because now I'm hearing a different story. You know,
Mm-hmm.
people come in and tell you, and there's a lot of emotional trauma
Mm.
with tinnitus
Mm-hmm.
and hearing loss. And if you've ever known anybody with hearing loss, they're usually pretty grumpy. So
Mm.
everybody is affected. And I obviously, when people are in pain, they're grumpy. We know the family's affected and everything. But with hearing loss, you're disconnecting from the world. And
Right.
so there's tends to be a retraction of, just who they are. And I know one of my patients upstairs, she had hearing loss and she didn't have hearing aids. And I didn't even realize she had hearing loss, but she would just smile
Mm.
all the time. And then suddenly she was engaged and having conversations, and their daughter had said, well, she got hearing aids. I was like,
Mm.
wow, and I guess if it's not on your radar, you just don't understand. But
Right.
anybody with aging parents, you know, I mean, it's sad to me that people become disconnected from the world. So to be able
Sure.
to bring them back in and
Mm-hmm.
and give them hope again and give them a solution, because what has happened in the hearing industry is if you have like within normal range of hearing, that you'll be tested. And if this is the range where you needed a hearing aid, they've increased that range. And so what
Okay.
hearing aids do is they amplify the sound on the eardrum, and it creates further damage. So what
Mm.
happens is that you need stronger and stronger hearing aids.
Mm.
So you're a lifer basically with the hearing aids.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if we can take that and get the body healing and reversing as opposed to creating more damage, that's what we want to do. So it really goes hand in hand with my philosophy, with every chiropractic philosophy is to get the body doing what it needs to do. The problem with the hearing system is that we are only born just like a woman with her ovaries, we're only born with 25 million hearing cells, and that sounds like a
Mm.
lot. But what happens through time is that we can have damage. So the cells go from healthy functioning to dormant to dead. So
Mm.
we can't revitalize the dead. And there's no way of measuring how many dead cells there are. So
Okay.
where these lasers work is in the dormant cells and getting them functioning optimally so that the hearing can start to come back and the tinnitus can calm down and the vertigo. With the vertigo, it's fascinating because the hair cells start to fall over and it
Wow.
causes them to spring back up. And so, yeah, it's really exciting to see.
So
And
this is a laser
yeah,
that's directed into the ear.
and the lasers are they're nanopulse technology. So we're
Okay.
able to actually, because they're class 4 lasers, so lasers create heat, and
Yeah.
obviously we don't want to heat up our brains.
Right.
And so with the nanopulse technology, we're able to get into the brain without creating excessive amounts of heat, but still get the inner ear, the cochlea of the ear, get those cells within there starting to function again.
That's amazing. And you've been taking care of patients for a long time, and now you're seeing a new group of patients with a new set of issues that maybe you weren't seeing prior to
Mhm.
accessing this knowledge and technology. What's similar across the board between like your chiropractic practice and now your hearing restoration practice in the human connection part? And then what would you say is different with these patients versus your chiropractic practice? I'm interested.
Um, well, similar in that a lot of people have been told there's nothing you can do. And
Hmm.
really, with tinnitus, in the US, there is really not a lot of solutions. You
Hmm.
know, they've tried some gimmick off Amazon that's $100 red light that doesn't do anything,
Mm,
or they've taken some nutritional products and that didn't do anything. So hope's been taken away. And
mm,
the problem with tinnitus is it becomes just like extreme pain. It becomes extremely serious where you can't get out of your head. So people
mm.
become suicidal.
Wow.
So I would say the level of severity is
Mm,
increased of what
Or
I'm seeing.
yeah.
And I do see a lot of people that are experiencing mental illness with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
think about that. If you're at night when you go to bed and everything's calming down and you've got buzzing and it gets louder and louder, you start to feel like you're going crazy. And people will go to all kinds of extremes to try to get that to stop, and you can't get out of your head.
Wow.
So it's a severity of, and I think about that. Like I think about, wow, like I can't even imagine like having, it's like torture,
Yeah,
really,
for sure.
and so it's a serious thing, and they don't have it. Then they've been told there is no solution, so you're gonna have to learn to live with it or cope with it.
Mm,
So everybody in the family is affected because they don't want, because they are not happy. They're grumpy, like they retreat. They retreat. And so a lot of times what happens, we like to have upstairs when they come in for a report, the spouse to be there so the
right.
spouse can know how to help them and take care of them and hear them and understand what they're going through. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times now when these people come in, their spouse is with them because they're
Yeah.
not functioning.
Mm.
And so the spouse is there through the whole thing because everybody's all hands on deck.
You know what it makes me think of when I hear you talk about these patients is every health discipline, whether you work in mental health or chiropractic or physical therapy or general medicine or hearing restoration, we're all saving lives, like
Hmm.
in some way.
Hmm.
That the person, by the time they come to our office, because there are doctors listening to this that are outside of chiropractic,
Hmm.
um, by the time someone is seeking your service, they're coming because their life has been disrupted at
Right.
some level. And now some are more extreme than others. But it's really important as a caring practitioner to remember the impact that this health condition is having on that person's quality of life. And you spelled out, like, I never thought about any of that. And I have a brother who's been deaf in one ear my entire life. I always just knew I had to be on his left side. But
Hmm.
but I never realized just the impact that that can have on someone's quality of life. And when it gets restored, or there's even a 50% improvement, that is completely life-changing, not just to them, but all the people around them, their
Yeah, it's the
family, their
ripple.
loved ones, their coworkers. And that's like another thing that a compassionate provider thinks about when they're sitting across from the person is not just the mechanical part of you have this and I do this for that, but
Hmm.
like let's go layers deeper to the effect that this is having on your life.
Hmm.
And going back to that, even that conversation with the staff, when we can convey that to our teams, so they know the impact that when they pick up a phone and the person goes, "I'd like to come in and see your doctor," they know the impact. They're not just taking an order. They're not just like taking an appointment.
Hmm.
They're the first person to help that person back on their healthcare journey. And that's a huge responsibility.
Hmm.
And we've all been to healthcare offices where we don't feel welcomed, right? Where we don't
Right.
feel, or we're treated with disrespect.
Yeah.
And that's a reflection on the leadership of that organization, whether
Hmm.
it's the doctor or if it's a big hospital, maybe it's the administrators there. So I just love this. And are you sharing the depth of this with your team regarding the hearing like you just did with me?
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And we do that every night. We have an end of day meeting as well to go through the day. And we go through the wins with the patients and we talk about what's happening with people
Mm.
and the changes. And so they really get to be a part of their healing journey, and they all take that very seriously because I take it seriously,
Yes, clearly.
and it's so fun to see. And I'm going to get emotional, but when you're the only person there for them, like you don't know what they were about to do. And
Mm.
if you or your staff or whoever it is just listens to them, or we send a card when there's something happens, their dog died, or whatever it is, but you don't know what you just did. And that is so critical, I believe, because we're so disconnected as a society.
Mm.
And just to have that connection with someone, you may have just saved their life. You don't
Mm.
know that they were what they were about to go home and do. And
Yeah,
so to me, I'm just so honored.
right.
I'm honored that I get to do that for people every day. Like what a gift that we get to give others.
Sure.
And so yeah, I'm sorry I'm getting emotional, but it
I
is.
love it. This is great. This is who we are, right? This is how we
Yeah.
need to show up.
Yeah. And that's why, people just, when they know you care, nothing makes me happier than if someone isn't feeling good and they call the office and go, I'm not well enough to come in, but is there anything I can do right now? Like I'll say, well, did you take oil of oregano or did you do this or do that? But when we're the first phone call because they
Mm.
trust us, because they know that we may know something that can help them, like what an honor, really.
It is an honor. And this is why you're not burnt out after 32 years
Yeah.
because you're leaning in. And doctor burnout's a really very real thing. And the
Yeah.
conventional wisdom is, oh, I just need more time off, or I'm going to fish more, I'm going to reduce my hours, or I'm going to golf more, I'm going to go for a hike, or I'm going to go yoga. And the truth is, the research shows is when we lean in more to the patient, and we practice more compassionate care, the burnout melts away. And you're a classic example of that. And the fact that you're bringing your team into it, you're making them
Mm,
part of it. Because our teams just sit at the counter and they could not know anything that's going on in the back of the office. And to make them a part of that is only going to assist the patient's healing journey.
right.
So, some people, some doctors or people will be listening to this, so they didn't get to see your emotion, but I'm sure that they heard it. But this is how raw, and it doesn't mean we have to be crying every day in our office, but like this is how raw we need to show up. This is like who we need to be, and this is why you're such an incredible healer. And I thank you for showing up here, vulnerable today in yourself. It's truly amazing. Um, so. Big picture, healthcare system. If I gave you a magic wand, and we've often joked, and I've called you a good witch because you could just like make magical things happen. It's like my nickname for you. Um, Appropriate timing with Wicked being out in the theaters. If you could reimagine the healthcare system in America, and you could wave your little wand, what would be the first thing you would do to make things different or better? And I know that's a big tall order. What would it look like to you?
Well, I've often wondered, you know, and I don't know if this is true. I was told like in other countries, and I don't know if it's China or whatever, but what if we paid our doctors $5 million a year, and for every person that came in that was sick, you got deducted out of your salary?
Mm,
So, how would that shift things if the motivation was to keep people well and out of the office as opposed to getting paid because they needed a back surgery and you were going to benefit $60,000 from that? It would be a
mm,
very different mentality.
mm,
And, our goal, I tell my patients, like, my goal, we got to fix this thing. We've got to want to fix, but we're going to get you stabilized and we want to get you functioning and getting your body working better. Uh, but that's not the big part of your care. The big part of your care is maintenance. That's
mm,
where, you are doing well and staying well because
Hmm.
you're maintaining yourself. And we're going to teach you how to do that. And so I think shifting that philosophy from disease care to health care,
Mm.
because we are not, it's not health care, it's disease care. And and so emergency medicine is great and it shines there. But really getting people maybe out of that, this hurts, so I need to take this drug, or this hurts, so I need to remove it out of my body, and educating people that your body is perfect and it's designed to work perfectly. Thank God you don't have the conscious control of everything, or you wouldn't make it
Mm.
through breaths, right?
Right.
And so, really getting people to honor their body and understand that the healing is coming from within,
Mm.
and that your body can do miraculous things without you doing a lot to it. It's just
Mm.
really needs to be given the correct things
Hmm.
gently. And
Mm.
so I just think that if more of medicine was geared towards wellness and not disease,
Mm.
that would be a good entry point. But the motivation has to be there for the doctors.
Right. The system right now incentivizes caring for sick people.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
So the incentive, if you want to watch human behavior, look at the incentive model. You get incentivized more when people are sick, and there's less incentive when people are well. And we're not saying, look, I believe, I can't speak for you. I believe doctors are doing the best with the tools that they have, but the whole system was built around an incentive system that incentivizes the care of disease. So I hear you. And so
Well,
it's a whole mindset shift.
yeah, and I've often thought of this too. I was told the statistic, I don't know where it came from, but that the government allocates $7,500 for every man, woman, and child in the United States. Where's that money? Where is that
Hmm.
money? So
Hmm.
what if we from birth were given $7,500 a year that could not
Mm.
be touched, that went into an account, some kind of a account that could grow, and then you had some kind of insurance that was an emergency policy,
Hmm.
catastrophic type stuff. And so that's $7,500 year after year after year after year that would be an account that would grow, uh, that you could utilize for healthcare as you choose. So if you're motivated to take care of yourself, you can dip into that account and you can use that for your chiropractic, and you can use that for massage or acupuncture, or going to your doctor because you have, something going on, and you, or dentistry or whatever it is, but that you have the power of choice over that, but that account can only be touched for medical purposes.
Hmm.
And that would motivate people, I think. And at a certain age, that it would grow into an exponential fund.
Sure.
And and so when something horrendous happens, that money could cover that kind of stuff. So, because I've heard that two-thirds of most people lose two-thirds of their net worth in the last 6 to 8 weeks of their life, and it goes
Mm.
into life-saving procedures in the
Mm.
medical system. So, like, what if we actually gave that power back to the people and
Mm.
actually gave them the power over their health to make
Sure.
their decisions for themselves? I feel like we would all, as a community, be more willing. Like, I just think the education process of handing the power back to the patient and
Mm.
understanding your body has the power to heal.
Mm. Yeah, I think those are really great points. And I know that 80% of Medicare's budget is spent on the last 2 years of life. So to your
Yeah.
point, and 50% of the medical system dollars, the entire country's dollars that go into medicine, are used by 5% of people that have chronic illness. So the point is, we're not going to be able to outspend sickness. Like, it's
No.
ballooning, and it's literally could be an existential threat to our country. We need more people less sick. We need a weller society. And
Right.
so that's a whole nother podcast and conversation. And maybe we will do that and have a round table of experts in different professions that can speak to the economics of how do we pull out of this whole thing? But as we come to the end of our podcast, and this was super fun, and I sure hope we will do it again, and I'm sure we will do it again. Um, if people want to learn more or contact you or learn more, what's the name of the laser, the new technology that you had?
Lumamed,
Say it one more time.
Lumamed, Lumomed.
Perfect. All of those links will be in the show notes, and people can certainly find you through there and learn more about this incredible technology. But we end every podcast with a fun lightning round of questions, and I'm so excited to hear your answers. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
One word to describe your care philosophy.
Precise.
Mm. A book, podcast, or person that's influenced how you care.
Hmm, so many people. I would say Dr. Russ Rosen.
Dr. Russ Rosen.
Yeah, he's a chiropractic coach.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Was he the coach that you mentioned earlier that told you to tell the truth?
Yeah.
Yeah, super. Um, Favorite part of your day with patients?
Mm. I love hearing the stories. I love hearing the success stories. It's always fun. I love hearing how their lives have changed.
That's the juice, right? That's the
Yeah, the
special
juice.
sauce.
Yeah.
One thing you wish every patient knew about you.
I'm actually quite funny. And I can be I'm lighthearted, but I come off very intense.
Yeah,
But I have a big, like, I always come with my heart, but I also have a very light and funny sense of humor.
awesome. Finish this sentence. Care is,
Just loving people for who they are.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. You are a true gem. I'm so happy that I can call you my friend and colleague. And thank you for this hour of sharing your expertise and wisdom with our Care to Grow community. And we're definitely going to have to do this again.
Thank you.